Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for our webinar today, Contract Negotiation, Leveraging Technology to Mitigate Risk and Legal Expense. I am honored and humbled to have my co-speaker today, Kevin Miller. He is the CEO of Legal Sifter. So a lot more from Kevin later. So Kevin, I would like to go ahead and welcome you to the webinar today, and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you so much, Ernie. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to Treasury Webinars for having us.
So I want to give you guys a little background on how this webinar came to fruition. I'm always out there looking on the forefront of technology in ways that I can help Treasury and finance professionals. And oftentimes, I'll find technology that really helps address pain points that I had as a Treasury leader. And so I came across this unique company, Legal Sifter, and Kevin will give you all the goodies about it. But contracts have always been incredibly painful. A lot of different contracts for CFOs and finance professionals. For me, bank agreements, insurance, right? All the different insurance things, M&A, not only in constructing them, reviewing them, right? What about our legal expenses? How much time are we spending? Are we really efficient in any areas of that? And I was thrilled to see that there's a company out on the forefront here, right, of leveraging AI in automation to really take some of the pain out, and not only mitigate costs, but also mitigate the risk exposures that we all face. We all know risk exposures gone wrong. Get your career off the rails pretty easily. So first and foremost, I want to thank our webinar partner today, Legal Sifter. They have an amazing solution, and I can already tell that they have a strong commitment to thought leadership and in serving the Treasury and finance professions as we do. And so I'm looking forward to a long partnership with Legal Sifter. So just a few housekeeping items. Any of you interested in receiving CTP credits for today's webinar, you'll have to stay on for the duration of the webinar today. And you'll also have to answer all of our polling questions here today, and you'll have to answer the short survey at the end of the webinar today. If you have any questions regarding CTP credit, please send an email to Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. I believe I put that into the chat area. So again, that's Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Also happy to share with you a copy of today's presentation. Not as many slides as normal because we're going to do a lot deeper dive here into how this particular solution works. A little bit different for me than normal, but this is really a unique game-changing product. And so I wanted to really show you guys how this works. You all know I'm technology agnostic, but this is really kind of out there, right? And so I want to give you guys the opportunity to really see what this is all about. I have no doubts that it can be extremely valuable to you and your teams as well. And so before we get started with Kevin, I'm going to go ahead and launch our polling question here today, just to kind of level set things a little bit. And of course, Kevin's an amazing speaker, but just to kind of level set where we're at, right? Where you stand depends on where you sit. So just asking you to share how much pain do you have before you sign contracts in your organization, especially those of you from my Treasury hat on. Those bank agreements, right? And we're more and more involved in M&A, right, as well. And so would you say it's excruciating before you sign it, a decent amount of pain, mild pain, no pain? And then those of you, if this isn't really in your wheelhouse just yet, just let us know that as well. The good news is you should always be looking ways to add value. And so if you're not involved, if you're not the treasurer, if you're not the CFO, well, you should share with them. I was on this webinar. They have this amazing solution that has AI and automation. You should take a look at this. This might be something, I thought this might be something we're interested in. I always hear you complaining about things. And so you should always be looking to add value and really expand your skill set. So let me go ahead and close the polling question here. And then we'll go ahead and take a quick peek at the results. And then I'll go ahead and hand the floor over to Kevin, and you can all have a break from listening to Ernie talk for the whole hour. I know you guys are pretty stoked about that. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek. We got 13% of you excruciating pain, a decent amount of pain, and so we've got 57% of you that are looking for some medicine. Mild pain, I would say good for you, and not applicable. Again, we're just looking to deliver you some thought leadership here. So Kevin, do you have any initial thoughts as I pass the floor over to you about the results here?
Yeah, I think this is pretty typical. I think when we sit with the financial functions around the world, from the Global 500 all the way down to small businesses, this is what we see. And what I would say to those of you who might be at the bottom of this list, no pain or not applicable, we often find that once we get into this conversation, many people will say, I may not be directly impacted, but I do understand as a company, we have a lot of hidden costs and pain on this. So generally, we get consensus around the fact that there is something in between mild and excruciating pain on contracts at most organizations.
All right. Thank you, sir. You should be able to go ahead and grab that presenter control for me.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, Ernie, thank you so much. Let me just hit all the right buttons here. So, you know, our agenda today, we're going to spend 25 minutes at a 10,000 foot level talking about specifically the legal profession and the movements in the legal profession and why you should have an eye on this and what's happening and the implications for your organization as a result of what's happening with both artificial intelligence as well as significant plate tectonic-like movement in the regulatory environment, particularly here in the United States, that ultimately over the next 5 to 10 years is going to have a material impact on how legal services are delivered and will ultimately result in lower cost, faster, higher quality service, which is something we all crave. Then I'm going to go specifically below 10,000 feet. We're going to talk about contracts, and we'll talk about our products and how we help solve contracts specifically and open up for questions. Before I get started, let me introduce myself. So as you know, my name is Kevin Miller. I am a licensed attorney, but I ran from the law very early in my career. I've spent 21 years being a part of and leading global businesses. I've been part of 3 other businesses prior to Legal Sifter. The first was a supply chain and sourcing business that went public in December of '99. It stands as the 4th or 5th most successful IPO in the history of the NASDAQ. I also was part of an education organization that went through hockey stick growth and was also purchased by Goldman Sachs. And then I spent 9 years at a safety and technology business that we grew from about $60 to $200 million. And I was the chief operating officer in that organization. We also had artificial intelligence in addition to hardware, software, service, and other technology. I tell you these things because I've spent a lot of time managing and working with finance, procurement, sales, engineering, marketing, operations, and all complaining about contracts. They are too hard to read, too hard to negotiate, slow down my buy and sales cycles, slow down my time to cash. And then once I sign them, they are a pain to keep track of. These are the problems that we hear over and over and over again around the world from companies and organizations of all size. So that's who you're talking to. That's the voice coming to you in the phone. Just so you know, I have a little bit of experience in this area. So when we look at this problem, we really need to start at the super high level, and I want to make you aware of the broad implications of artificial intelligence and regulatory change on the legal profession. This is not just me coming at you. There are lots of other major thought leaders in the profession that are saying the exact same thing that I'm going to tell you here over the next couple of minutes. And it starts with a basic understanding of, and this is more of a civil point of view, but it makes the point. We all wish that lawyers were more available, cheaper, faster, and frankly, more consistent. The reality is the world that we live in is not that way. This is a fun, study that was not so fun, but a study that was done out of the United Nations in 39 different countries. And they basically showed what we all know to be true, that when we have a legal issue, whether you're a business or you're a consumer, we don't tend to go to the legal profession because they are universally too expensive and too slow. And we know why. We know why. We know that the average attorney fees are well beyond the affordability of a small, medium-sized, or even a large business, to the degree that we would all like to use our attorneys. So as a result, we use the profession on our most strategic and most sticky wicket issues, and we do not use the profession every day the way we would use marketing or engineering or finance or sales. And that is because of the cost structure and because of the lack of scalability in the profession. And we like to blame the lawyers for this, because we see in our daily lives in other professions, whether it be as a consumer, I can go and buy groceries on my own, I can go and get medical services on my own, I can go into the accounting profession and I can service myself. But in the legal profession, if I really, really, really want to be sure, I have to call a lawyer, and there's a very high price tag on that, both in terms of speed, cost, and consistency. So we're frustrated about this. It's why there are all the lawyer jokes. Well, we like to blame these lawyers, and for about 2 minutes, I'm going to defend them, and then that'll be it. We have to remember that this was the dominant technology in the legal profession not too far in the distant past. And for many organizations, for many lawyers, this is still the truth. We have a couple of 35-year partner level attorneys on staff. They were partners at a major law firm in the Midwest here, and they joined us at the back half of their career. And what they'll tell you is, for them, technology has operated like a donut. They operate at the center of the donut, and they've had technology throughout their 30, 35-year career that helps them, but it helps them on the periphery. It helps them with email, or it helps them with phone calls, or billing, or project or matter management, but it doesn't actually do the work. It doesn't get into the heart of the profession. They are thinking, reading, writing animals, and they don't have stuff that thinks and reads and writes. And that contrasts dramatically to every other function in the enterprise, including finance, where we have tools, whether they be hardware, software, something in between, that gets into the heart of these other functions and allows people to scale. That does not happen at all or easily in the legal profession, because this has been the dominant technology, a yellow notepad. So as a result, law firms and legal departments are much like full service gas stations. I try to lead off with this analogy all the time. And it kind of goes like this. Imagine this was a law firm or your internal legal department. If you have one, some of you are large, some of you are small on the call. Imagine it has mahogany on the walls or something. And you pull your car up, and the car that you pull up has a problem. That's your legal problem. And a bunch of lawyers jump out of this service station and they take your car. They take it away. They keep it for like 4 or 5 days. They wash your windows. They change your oil. They review all your fluids. They give it a full detailing, rotate your tires, swap out your brake pads, and return it to you 4 or 5 days with a bill that was much higher than you expected. And the problem was, when you pulled up to that filling station, all we really wanted was a tank of gas. But we don't have a way historically to do that with confidence, whether you're in finance, sales, service operations, consumer, or business, because the typical model is, I'm going to jump out, I'm going to take your car, keep it for longer than you think, and give you a bill you didn't expect. We've all been there. And if you talk to the lawyers, I don't care what you've heard, many, many, many attorneys hate this. They see what we do in our normal operations, and they can't figure out how to do what they're seeing in their clients, what they're seeing at their clients' organizations. They can't replicate that inside of a law firm. And the truth is, they have so much demand for their services, they can make a very nice living. They don't have enough pain to drive change. But the reality is, all of us want something different. This is a recent poll, I guess it's not so recent, December of 18, from Harris, and it showed that 69% of people, businesses or consumers, would much rather use some sort of online legal services or self-service and partial service, just like we do in every other facet of the enterprise, over attorneys. And you might think that this stat is shaded by age. The truth is, the distribution was the same. If you were over the age of 55, you had the same point of view as if you were under the age of 30. So the first major bullet in this webinar is the following. The future of legal service is one of self-service, partial service, and full service. For some of you might be attorneys on the call, you know this. Legal technology serves the lawyer primarily. LegalZoom aside, some of you probably use LegalZoom. They just went public 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have a relationship with them, great company. But they are a drop in the bucket of what is a $1 trillion market, where the vast, vast majority of services are delivered in a full service, labor-intensive way. And that is because these are thinking, reading, writing, advocating animals, and we can't give them technology that does that. But artificial intelligence changes this. AI does a little bit of thinking, does a little bit of reading, does a little bit of writing, and what's going to happen is exactly what has happened in all of the other professions that has had technology, hardware, software, or otherwise, that gets into the heart the workflow. We will see new, novel ways of solving our problems that put more of the opportunity or the burden on us, and we are happy to take it because it's cheaper, faster, and better than using a full service model all the time. Many of you are in organizations that do this for a living. You offer self-service solutions in the form of SaaS or hardware. Some of you have some partial, and some of you are full service opportunity organizations, and many of you do all of the above. That is not the case in lawyers. With lawyers, you can't go onto an average law firm's site and buy anything. You have to wait to talk to a human, and that is expensive. This is the first major point of the presentation, which is this is happening, and that is because now on this planet, some of you are in this space, there's AI on the ground at LegalSifter and other companies like us that can do a little thinking, reading, writing, and entrepreneurs are embracing this. So now you're seeing all these predictions. Thomson Reuters having, these are just some of the predictions that are out there. And basically it's starting here that says the lawyer jobs that have the sole task of looking through documents or databases, those things are going to go away for the profession, and it's going to be replaced by technology. And there will be new jobs for inside of the profession that help people work with this new technology. It's like having a whole bunch of new team members. Instead of associates or paralegals, they're going to have little algorithms running all over documents to help them do their job and scale. The good news is there are tons and tons of entrepreneurs in the profession. You may not think it, but there are. We know, we get resumes from them every freaking day, and they want to be a part of this. They see how the profession has been servicing their clients. They know that the profession in general has unintentionally confused customer demand with customer satisfaction. And they know that we only have kind of one place to go today, but the moment that we have something else, we're going to look to doing something else. And they are excited to do that. And they are of all ages. There are lawyers out there who believe that there is a better way. They've just been waiting for technology to do it. And AI is the secret sauce. It is a bit of a silver bullet, which we never get to say in business. And we're seeing this all over the place. Legal tech is growing fast. There's all kinds of charts and graphs out there about all the investments going into legal tech right now. This is another world-class year for it after kind of a lull, a little bit of a lull in 2020. It's growing fast with and without AI. But in tandem with this, and you may or may not realize this, but another plate tectonic shift is happening that's going to impact how you think about your risk inside your business and as it relates to buying lawyers to mitigate that risk. Things are also changing on the regulatory front that are very promising. So some of you may or may not realize that number one, in order to be a part of a law firm, to own part of a law firm, you have to be an attorney. If you are an attorney, not an attorney, you can't own part of a law firm. So that presents a problem in that all of you great operators out there are less excited about going into a law firm and revolutionizing how legal services are delivered. And most of the management, quote, talent and responsibility inside these law firms are actually coming from lawyers who we all know are not trained on the operations of an organization. I've talked to many a managing partner of all sizes around the world on this, and they lament the fact that they don't have the basic management and leadership training that the rest of their clients do. And as a result, their firms are less skillful, less slower, more costly than they otherwise would be. Well, this is a major chart. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, would we be this far along? I would have said no. I would have said we're decades away, but it's happening now. In Utah and Arizona specifically, they are now allowing non-lawyers to own law firms. And the states in the yellow, including the District of Columbia, are just some of the states that have opened up processes to do something similar. I've talked to some very, very senior folks around the world on this, and most are now coming to the conclusion that within the next 5 to 10 years, might take 10, might be 5, this entire map is going to look different. And you may think it's a red-blue thing, a Republican-Democrat thing. It's not. It's more of a, is the bar conservative, is the state's bar aggressive? And that necessarily doesn't necessarily line up with red and blue politically. The impact of this is profound. In the United Kingdom and Australia, some of you probably know this, they did this already. And as a result, Deloitte and PwC are some of the largest law firms in those regions. That has not happened here yet. So as a result, you can't change your business to get into the legal profession and deliver legal services. You'd be violating the rules. But this is changing. So what this means is, holy cow, the combination of AI and a move to self-service and partial service and the influx of talent, money, and operators into the profession will open up all kinds of new products and services that we have never been able to buy as clients. I've been a client of the industry more than I have been a supplier to the industry than ever before. And that will ultimately result in cheaper, faster, better legal services and lower risk for all of you. So these are two plate tectonic kind of points I wanted to make here. One, AI thinks and reads and writes a little bit. So your attorneys, I would expect all of your law firms, if I were a major buyer at a law firm, I'd be asking them what their AI strategy was and how they're going to scale. If they don't have an answer, that should be a signal to you that you're not working with the best. Second is this concept that non-lawyers are going to be able to own law firms is going to change the profession more profoundly. And if you need examples of that, look at seeing what's happened in the UK and Australia. So those are the two 10,000-foot points. So we're going to switch and we're going to go deep into the profession and deep into your world. And we're going to talk about contracts, because contracts is like a canary in the coal mine on this. Because of the nature of contracts, AI specifically can attack them very quickly now, given the technology that's available to us. And so organizations, are changing and have different viewpoints on how they're managing what is frankly a historical major pain of contracts. So we're going to get into very tactical things on contracts next. Before I do that, let me turn it back over to Ernie while he asks you another question.
All right, thank you so much. Kevin, usually I'm not so engaged. You're an amazing speaker, and this content is amazing, and my mind's going a million miles an hour. How I can't wait to share this with everyone, all my contacts across the globe. Just asking you on the other side of our question, how much pain do you feel after, right? After you sign those contracts? So a little bit different question, the same levels of pain. Excruciating, a decent amount, mild pain, no pain, not applicable. Some of you on the decent or excruciating amount of pain, you probably lose sleep over this at night. So hopefully what we'll see is that having AI and automation is going to really help us sleep a little better at night. So a quick reminder, those of you interested in receiving CTP credits for today's webinar, please answer this polling question. Only, I'm not going to tell you how many more, you got to pay attention. But I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering the polling question. Just go ahead and click your button. And so we'll take a quick peek here. I want to give Kevin as much time as possible. The content is absolutely fascinating, and as you'll see, it's extremely practical as he dives in a little deeper. Go ahead and close the polling question. Let's go ahead and share the results real quick. So we got 29% of you decent or excruciating, maybe a little bit less than we saw on that side of it. Kevin, any thoughts here? And then as far as the difference, do you see there's more pain before or after, or do you see any trends in that variance there?
Well, I see that we've got about 45, 46 people on the call, and I'd have to look at the industry. But what we find is that it's about 50-50. I mean, we will walk into an organization and we'll say, do you have contract pain, yes or no? Most people will tell us a story. And then we'll say, well, is your pain before you sign or after you sign? And it's probably, I mean, I haven't done the stats, but my guess is that it's about 50-50. And it just depends where they are in their maturity and what they know. Right. And some people are very mature and some people aren't. So it's pretty typical. All right, so let me take it back. And I think I did. Did I take it back?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so just a minute on high level. So just the level set. So people spend a lot of time on contracts. Contracts are the most important document in global commerce, and they are universally a pain. They are a pain to read and negotiate. They're a major source of procrastination. They slow down buy cycles and sales cycles. How many sales? We spend all this money on sales training and all this money on making our salespeople better. And then we lament the fact that, if you look at your sales cycles, 10 to 15% of the extra time is 100% related to the contract review and negotiation. And you're like, why the heck is this happening? Because it's the same thing over and over and over again. So that's the pain we typically hear. The other pain we hear on the front end is, hey, geez, I have some slides on this, but geez, I'm not sure what I'm signing, and most of the stuff that we're doing is with non-lawyers. The other side, the other pain that people have and spend a lot of time and money on is organizing these contracts, keeping track of where these things went, what's in them, et cetera. So let's start and level set, and maybe this speaks to some of you who have a lot of pain. So this is not my survey. This is from Houlihan Lokey. For those of you who know Houlihan Lokey, they are a competitor to Goldman Sachs. They do more transactions a year than Goldman Sachs, but they are much smaller. What they did, again, they're putting us in the legal space. Contracts are owned by everybody in an organization. It's one of our challenges is who the heck owns a contract in a company. It's hard to know because it's a decentralized responsibility. But I digress. They kind of did a survey of legal departments here in August of last year, and this is what we see over and over and over again. If I ran my company with this level of satisfaction, we would not be a good company. We would not be we'd be out of business pretty soon. This is a very low net promoter score for those of you who use net promoter score. And contract management finished last. You know, my perspective on this is 91% of contract management clients are not very satisfied. There is an established software, and you probably know this, industry out there called the contract lifecycle management software industry. It's a billion-dollar industry. It's been around for 30 years, and they are responsible for this level of satisfaction. And it is because they offer incomplete solutions. We'll get into that. You'll see more. You're going to get a white paper from us at the end of this that talks about managing your contract database for those of you who have invested in one, and the 5 things you should be doing to keep it from failing. But what it speaks to is why this 30-year industry is in last place here and has a very low net promoter score, and 91% are not very satisfied. So for those of you who are in excruciating pain or mild pain, you are not alone. So first of all, the contract challenges are ubiquitous. This is what we hear over and over and over again. I've covered some of this already. Most of our contracts are reviewed and negotiated by non-lawyers. That is true across the planet. Most contracts, most important document in global commerce, read by non-lawyers. We know why. They're too expensive and too slow. And we know why that is, because they haven't had technology that helps them scale. Not always their fault. Contract negotiations slow down sales, purchasing, and when I talk to CFOs and our CFO clients, this is what they talk to me about. They talk about risk, and they talk about time to cash. Can I get those buy-sell cycles down? Because I'm getting killed on these negotiations. We saw one of our major clients, major financial concern. You would all know them. You would all know who they are. We got our hands on an internal memo that was sent out, and they were setting expectations in purchasing that it was going to take them 6 to 9 months to get an MSA done. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. After you sign, what we hear is our contracts are a mess. I don't know where they are. I don't know what they say. We have to call out a search party to find our contracts. I just talked to one of the largest architect service companies. I don't know what they call themselves, I'm sorry, in the United States. And they say our contracts are everywhere. They're on multiple desktops, multiple shared drives. They're still in paper. We're not sure what they say. We have to call out a search party to find our contracts. And I have risk. I know I do. I don't know what I've signed, and I'm concerned we've signed something we shouldn't. Okay, I made the point. So, now I got to switch. So we're going to switch. So now the rest of this presentation, everything that you're going to see with the exception of the demo of our product is on our website. And we do this because, you know, if you lose the slides or whatever, everything is here. So you can just come back to our website and you can kind of figure it out. So I'm going to show you our approach, and I will talk about the competitors as we go, because if you get nothing out of this webinar, it's the idea that, look, approaching these ubiquitous pains, there are new solutions out in the marketplace that you can explore that perhaps solve those pains in ways that you didn't think were possible. So what do we do? So we're a combined intelligence company. That means we offer artificial intelligence and human expertise on top of software and service to solve your problem. I know as a former COO, you know, as I got older and got more experienced, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of buying dashboards and reports and things in between. Give me something that takes this problem off the table for me. Don't make me piece it all together all the time. I don't mind being a do-it-yourselfer. We are do-it-yourselfers as a smaller business in Legal Sifter, and we did a lot of that in my last couple of businesses. We certainly want to do things internally at times, but my goodness, some of this stuff, can we just get a complete solution that just takes the issue off the table? So we have fashioned our company as we're going to offer you complete solutions, or if you want a self-service solution, you can have it. So we offer two solutions, a before you sign solution and an after you sign solution. Legal Sifter Review is a SaaS product, and I'm going to show it to you in 5 minutes, that reads contracts and gives advice. Involves no humans on the back end. There are no gerbils running around like looking at your contracts and marking them up. It is using artificial intelligence and human expertise, and not just any expertise, world-class human expertise that we can hang our hat on. And the idea is, as we've already discussed, people have problems before they sign negotiating contracts. It takes too long. You either have too many people involved if you're large, or you don't have enough if you're by yourself. I talk to some small businesses and they tell me, I've had CEOs tell me, when we do contracts, usually late at night after dinner with a glass of red wine, watching a ball game. That's not the best time to be reviewing contracts, but that's what a lot of people have to do. A lot of small and mid-sized businesses tell me, you don't want to know how much time our C-level suite spends on contracts. It's embarrassing. And so we've already talked about the fact that internal counsel can be too slow and expensive. So what have we done? Well, we built a tool that basically says, in the not too distant future, everyone on the planet will use grammar check, spell check, and something like Legal Sifter Review to give you in-context advice on the terms and conditions of these complex documents. Not just the grammar, not just the spelling, but actually the content. The most popular use case for what I'm about to show you is reviewing other parties' paper. As we know, as you know, in every contract negotiation on the planet, at least one party is on another party's paper. If I do a long-term deal with Ernie, which I hope to do, maybe it's Ernie's paper we're using, so then I got to read it. Or maybe he's using my paper, and then he's got to read it. And now you got two humans negotiating over a bunch of prose that, frankly, neither one of us probably wrote. That is insanely painful. Other use cases include, maybe you are producing your first draft. This is particularly true in sales. Maybe you want to check your first draft to make sure it has stuff in it. Or maybe I send my document to Ernie and he just rips it to shreds and put all of his stuff in there, and it comes back, might as well have been his paper to begin with. That's a great use case for our product. The fourth use case is double checking your teammate's draft contract. If I am have to route things through procurement, finance, sales, and IT to get an MSA out the door, maybe I want to check people's work before I do that. And then I'm just going to focus on this just real quick, and then I'll move on with the actual demo. The fifth example is, takes a little bit of thinking. It's in procurement. So maybe you're buying a bunch of stuff, and typically in procurement, you're on other parties' paper. So, that's kind of annoying. It slows things down. What you could do is you could set up Legal Sifter Review such that your suppliers will do the first sift. You say, all right, fine, supplier, I'll use your paper, but you have to upload this document. This tool is going to read it and give you our point of view on your document. You do the first red line. So then by the time you pick it up, if the supplier is any good as his or her job, they have modified it for what you really think is important. Now you love this, right? And the salesperson on the other side, the supplier, loves this. They don't know they love this because they've never seen it, but they love it. They complain constantly about the fact that you take forever to review their paper. Now you're putting it on the one person in the entire transaction that cares the most about getting this deal done, and that's the salesperson. And so if he or she's any good at his job, they'll do the first red line, and that way, at least when you're picking up that third-party paper, it's a little bit or maybe a lot of it closer to what you want. You have fewer cycles back and forth, and you get the deal done. And on the buy side, maybe it's time to savings or time to whatever you're buying. All right, so, I logged out. I'm going to show you this product just to wet your whistle here. So this is Legal Sifter Review. It's all in the cloud. It's on Amazon Web Services. We have we service Global 500 financial concerns all the way down to small business. We're in 40 different industries in 20 different countries. All of you would put us through, or many of you would put us through a cybersecurity process. We will pass it. We have a lot of our stuff out online if you want to know, but it is in the cloud. It's hosted through a browser. So I'm just going to show you an answer here. So what's happened is a user will come in and say, I've got a draft document, and they will sift it. Here, I'll go back to this other screen. They'll click the sift document button. You tell the system what type of contract you are reviewing and what side of the table you're on. I'm the buyer, I'm the supplier, I'm the landlord, I'm the tenant, so forth and so on. This works for today, simple documents like non-disclosure agreements and business associate agreements, to complex documents like information security addendums, SaaS agreements, leases. We are rolling out this month a whole bunch of shipping and shipping documents and transportation documents. We have services, software, hardware, privacy, etc. I would venture to guess that 50 to 80% of what any of your procurement departments are looking at, just as an example, you can use this tool for, if not more than that. As time goes by, we will get into more and more complex documents. But this is where we are today. We've actually taken a look at ISDAs, for example, but we haven't pulled the trigger. So here's an example. So this is just an off the web EULA from McAfee. What the tool is going to do for the user, and most of our users are non-lawyers, and many of them are lawyers. And the idea is, when you pick up somebody else's paper or even your own, one of the hardest things to do is to figure out what's in it. What's even harder is to figure out what's missing that you should care about. So the very first thing the tool tells you is, what are some of the things that are deemed important that are missing from this document? For example, in this EULA, there's nothing about encryption that requires McAfee to encrypt your stuff. And maybe that's appropriate for this transaction, but maybe it's not. So we are flagging that for you, and we are giving you in-context advice on what's missing. This is the favorite feature of all of our users today, is what's missing. As you go through the document, you get advice on what's present. So this is a EULA. I'll flip over here just to show you another example to an NDA, and then I'll show you a lease. Let's say I'm looking at this non-disclosure agreement. Again, I'm getting the missing up here at the top. You know, it's telling me that there's a reverse engineering provision missing, and I should insert it. But as I move through the document out to the right, if I want to help on a certain context, I can get help on that actual topic, like in this case, equitable remedy. And if I don't know what that is, I can read about it, I can get some advice, and I've actually already made a change here. I can redline the document. This is a fully editable document, just like you would do in Word. You're going to do all your red lines here. You're going to track them, change them. If someone uploads a redline document, you're going to do all that work here. You're going to export it out of this tool, and you're going to send it in Word to the other party. And it's going to save you time. It's going to save you energy. It's going to save you stress, and it's going to lower your risk. It's also going to drive consistency across the board for all your contracts. It's like you have a lawyer looking over your shoulder. Now, for our mid-size and our larger clients, they're like, this is great, but what I really want is I want to configure the advice for my people. I want them to know that our governing law is this, or we don't accept this indemnity that, or our limitation liability is this, or our net payment terms are this. So most of our clients, at least today, in the long term, we think most will be not this, actually buy the edition that allows you to configure the advice. So all of this advice is configurable. So here's a lease. And so if you go to PNC Bank or some of our other larger clients, Marsh McLennan, or some of our mid-sized clients like MSA Safety, you know, what you're going to find is the advice that people receive inside the tool is their point of view. It says, hey, we accept this, we decline that. Here is our point, our primary position. Here's our backup. Here's, if you see this, you need to call legal or call finance or call IT on the information security side. And here's some sample language. So they've configured the advice in the tool for their unique business. Now we seed these tools with advice from real world-class leaders, and I should have had this open, but I didn't. Our chief content officer is a guy named Ken Adams. Ken is really famous. He's been with us for a couple of years now. Ken wrote the Manual of Style for Contract Drafting for the American Bar Association in its 4th edition. It's a bestseller. He gets 60,000 people to this blog every single month. He works for us. We've got a lot of Ken Adams-like people writing advice inside the tool. So the idea is, like, whether you have a full playbook of what you want to do or you're starting from scratch, we're going to start you in a place where you can use our stuff and get you off to the right foot, or off on the right foot, and then you can modify it as you need for your own organization. So the point is, if you use this tool, if your people use this tool, you will be cheaper, faster, and safer, period, full stop. It's like having a second set of eyes on top of your contracts. And that's what we all want. You know, when I talk to people, and I know I was this way, my favorite attorneys, we had attorneys in-house, and we had 6 to 12 law firms on retainer out of house in my last $200 million company that was global. And, you know, my favorite attorney was a guy and a gal, two people who worked at a law firm, but I couldn't afford to send them everything. It didn't make sense to send them a $5,000, you know, supply chain contract and say, make sure I don't sign something I shouldn't. With this tool, now you can at least get a second set of eyes on everything and driving that consistency and lowering your risk across the board. So let me pause there before I move on to our second product and the after you sign side. If there are any questions, I don't know if there are any questions in chat, Ernie, otherwise I'll move on.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to ask a burning question that there's more than one. I'm sorry if it really doesn't fit, but my first thought is, maybe you can do this later if it doesn't make sense here. What is the reaction of the law profession of this? Are they terrified, or do they not want to spend time with contracts, or is there a sense of that yet at all?
Well, it's all over the board.
Okay.
You have the skeptic to the entrepreneur. So we'll start with the negatives. The skeptic is going to say, well, I don't need this. I know everything about contracts. We have this every day. It drives us bananas. We're like, okay, you know, I don't understand that point of view. You use Google Maps to get around your town, and I'm sure you know how to drive around town. Why in the world wouldn't you want a second set of eyes on your contract? So there's a little bit of that. As the years have gone by over the last 3 years, this product's been out for 3 years now, we've seen less of that. And the profession is starting to move towards, okay, I get it. Me plus an algorithm is a better me. And that's a new standard of care, but that takes some discussion. Then the second kind of comment is from the entrepreneur, which is like, holy cow, this is a game changer. I get it. I want in. So we have about 30 or 3 dozen law firms around the world. That's where we've started. And they are co-branding this product, putting their advice inside of it and offering software to their clients. Now, they're not very good at it, to be honest. They're pretty terrible at it right now, but that's what they're doing. We have 2 insurance companies, one that I can be public with, Victor Insurance. Sorry, I should have had this up. Where, as part of their insurance to their 10,000 insured, they're in the architecture or an engineering space, I think. And they, at times, their insured will send them buy-sell contracts and ask for a quick review. And their inside counsel does this as a value-added service, and they're way overwhelmed. So so what they've done is Victor. They just announced this in June. It's the first in the insurance industry. We're about to do this another time with a major insurance carrier. Victor is major. They are part of Marsh McLennan.
Oh, wow.
They have put their advice inside the tool, and they are providing the tool they've provided it to 1,500 of their companies in May and June, and we're seeing how this is going to go. And so in that case, that was led by the lawyers in inside counsel. Their sales team and their marketing team was saying, how do we differentiate our insurance play? How do we add value-add services? Our clients are signing something that they shouldn't. Their risk people were saying that contractual risk represents 1/3 of the risk in their E&O insurance. How can they lower that? And then their legal team was like, I'm happy to do contract reviews, but there's only 4 of us, and you got 10,000 companies. There's no way we can do this. So we showed up, gave them the tool, they co-branded it, and they put their advice inside. So I think in general, law firms, we only have about 15% of our clients are law firms. They buy slow, they buy small, and they implement poorly.
Oh.
And that's where the profession is today.
Yeah, let me ask you kind of an in-depth question, but I think multiple people probably have this. So let's say the law firm is using it, right? So is the Sifter going through your AI and intelligence, or is it going through theirs? And how do you marry the differences there, right? So maybe your guy who's the leading expert might not have the same opinion. So that might be a long question, but that's where my mind goes.
No, it's exactly the question. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. I guarantee you it's what's on a lot of people's minds. Yeah. And that is, I'll just do a little bit of details here. So in the back half, so first off, there's 2 answers to that question. Functionally, how does that work? Is the AI actually providing the advice? No, the AI is not providing the advice. Humans are. So what happens is the AI is telling you, is a concept there or not? And what's cool about it is it uses natural language processing. Some of you know what this is. And that means it can read for novel language, which means it can see language it's never seen before and still recognize it as an amendment must be in writing or an arbitration clause or something. And that's important because if this were just a bunch of keywords, it wouldn't work. I wouldn't be here because lawyers and all of us write our contracts slightly differently. So it's really important that that you understand the technology learns and gets smarter over time, which it does as we get more use. And second, that it can react to novel language. So that's a question we usually get. But then the second question is, well, okay, but the advice is different by jurisdiction, by lawyer, by whatever. How do you manage that? Well, honestly, it's not very complicated. How you do it is back here in the tool. This is what your admins see, your users don't see this. And let's say your position on arbitration is, we love arbitration and NDAs. You shouldn't, by the way, you should hate it. We love arbitration, and here's our position. There, I just changed it. So technically, it's very easy to change the advice. But the answer to your question is, at the root of it is, it's a slow, methodical process, I think, over a long period of time, where real experts like Ken Adams and others, and they are out there, have a megaphone through a tool like this to get into the heart of every single contract negotiation, and over time start to develop standards. There have been many, many failed attempts by many organizations and service organizations to, quote, standardize a contract. They fail every time, and the reason is they don't have a great technology widget that delivers that advice into the workflow very naturally for the rest of us, like, say, Grammarly or Microsoft Office's grammar check. You know, when Microsoft Office decided, or when Microsoft decided last year to start putting a comma after the second or third word in a list right before the and they started marking that as a grammar check mistake, we all got that overnight. We may not agree with it, but we got it. So it's going to take, my answer to your question is, it's very, very messy. It's messy today. We're trying to kind of herd the cats in some common directions based on best practices. I want you to imagine the not too distant future, Ernie, we have a lot of data. So we're going to be publishing, as part of our out of the box stuff, data that says, okay, guys, 87% of the time in North America, this clause appears in an NDA. And then I'm going to have Ken Adams, who happens to be an expert on NDAs, not all contracts, but NDAs, have right next to it. And I think that's a bunch of nonsense. You guys should never have to worry about this. Or the opposite. 10% of you are using this in the negotiation, and that's a bunch of nonsense. You should always have this in there. And here's the data to back that up. That doesn't exist in the legal profession. We just kind of rely on our local lawyer to tell us what's what. But the truth is, they all kind of say something a little bit different. There's not a lot of data. You don't really know what benchmarks are. And the lawyers behind closed doors tell you this. So I guess my answer is, it's messy. The tool allows us to kind of drive to some consensus, and ultimately it's up to the client to decide. But you know, this is progress. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, so we'll get to the tail end of this. So some of you have after you sign pain. I can't find my contracts after I sign them. You know, I usually have another slide that says, hey, contracts have 1 day in the sun. You know, everybody hates contracts, but they have 1 day in the sun. That's the day it's signed. Everybody wants to know what's in that thing. And you, frankly, usually, if you're like most organizations I've been a part of, you pass that contract around and like do six extractions. Marketing pulls out X, and finance pulls out Y, and manufacturing pulls out Z, and service pulls out A. And you may or may not do that correctly. And then it goes somewhere. More organizations have bought or built databases, and it goes to a database. But then that database is usually a wreck. It's usually a mess. And the reason for that is you either have a broken process for getting all the contracts into one place, or you don't have any AI to get the contract data out of the contract. Because frankly, if I sit Ernie or myself in front of a contract, take me half an hour to an hour to get 25 to 30 to 60 terms and conditions out of there with some varying level of quality, it's too expensive. But with AI, I can extract all this data, and then I can use a human to go over it, and I can be cheaper, faster, and better. And the numbers are something like this. You know, Ernie on his own can get through 1 to 3 contracts an hour, extracting data and putting it into a database. With AI and a better process, you can get to 5 to 15, 10 to 20, a lot more, with higher quality and more proficiency. As the AI gets better over time, it's going to work like the autopilot. Right now, in this environment, in the after you sign side, the AI does about 50% of the work. The human has to do about 50% of the work. So our legal Sifter Concierge solution I'm about to tell you is not SaaS. It's a tech-enabled subscription service. It's people plus AI, because I can't get the AI to do 100% of what you need. But over time, just like the autopilot, now it runs 93% of the flight. It didn't used to do that in the plane before. I don't know what the history of, but it's got an 80 or 90-year history. Over time, the AI will do more and more, and it'll get cheaper, faster, and better. But typically what happens is you don't have enough people to do the work of chasing contracts. You're going to get a white paper on this after the fact that talks about this dynamic. And what happens is, for those of you who have built or bought a database, unless you have somebody who's really spot on it, or a couple of people, if you're at size, the thing runs fallow. Within 2 or 3 years, nobody's using it. Nobody trusts the data. They just want to read the contracts, and it's a pain. You spend just as much money as you ever did, only now you're paying for a database. So what we've done is we've built a tech-enabled subscription service called Legal Sifter Concierge. And basically we've realized that contracts are important and they are never core. And curating contracts is never going to be core for you unless you're in the financial services game or in the real estate business. You probably do a pretty good job. But the rest of you are pretty lousy at this. If you bend metal, if you deliver service, if you build software, this is not core to what you do. So we figured out that, you know what, everybody needs a contract librarian. You guys should just be depositing contracts with us, just like or with some other service, and they don't really exist. We're one of the first, or it's not the first. You just deposit the contracts with us, and we'll take care of everything else. We will extract the data with humans and AI. We'll give you a database if you want one. I'll show that to you in just a second, and we'll keep everything organized. Because the way it looks today is people buy or build these databases. It's like having a library, but all the books are on the floor. We'll put all the books on the shelves. We'll put a Dewey Decimal System around it. Another analogy, you know, it's just like depositing money in a bank. You deposit money in a bank, you have no freaking idea how that money gets from the ATM into your phone on this app that allows you to manage your financials, and you don't care. You do not care. You have no idea what that app is called, the Bank of America or PNC Bank provides you. Same thing here. You shouldn't care. All you want is you want alerts and reports on when stuff is coming up. I want to be able to find my contracts. I don't want to see 53 Google Incs in there. I want to find them all under Google. I want all my data parent-child mapped. I want to have confidentiality around the stuff that people can't see, and I want as many users to be able to see the contracts that they can see easily without additional cost. So that's what we provide. We provide an all-inclusive solution. It's called Legal Sifter Concierge. You can be up and running in a few weeks, and it works on a deposit system. We agree on the fields of data you want. You deposit the contracts with us. We extract that data. We will organize it. We guarantee quality. And we put it, if you don't have a database, in one of, sorry, I logged out, in a very nice database from a partner called ContractSafe. If you want us to do it agnostically on the system that you have done, we'll do that too. We'll be a contract librarian on top of it. We take your contracts, put it in an extraction tool that I don't have time to show you that uses those same algorithms that I talked about in Legal Sifter Review. We put humans on top of that, and we have a manufacturing-like process. I think I told you at the beginning I ran manufacturing and safety and technology in my safety and technology business. And we will extract this data, organize it, and put it into this database or somewhere else. And you can have unlimited users to this one. Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna be able to get in because I screwed up the demo. But this gives you everything you want from an organization perspective. And the reality is, what we try to show in the white paper, which you can read later, is look, the value in contracts is not in the database. The value is your ability to find and organize those those contracts after the fact and get alerts on risks or dates or auto renewals or whatever. And the value on the before you sign is not in the contract template or the creation, it's in the negotiation and the review. And so that's why we kind of centered our two products here, before and after you sign, on what we think are the biggest pains. So anyway, in summary, we offer another solution. It's a tech-enabled subscription service. It's called Legal Sifter Concierge. We organize your contracts for you because, frankly, most of you are going to be terrible at this. And we offer it as a service. We will provide the database software, guarantee quality, and basically you deposit your contracts as you sign them automatically or manually through an email, and they'll be into your system within the same day or within a couple of days, and then all of your users can access them at any time. And that is two examples of how artificial intelligence can help you get ahead of the speed pain you have, the cost pain you have, and the risk pain you have before and after you sign, both with a self-service tool called Legal Sifter Review, SaaS, that could have, if you really wanted advice from attorneys that are not us, we could put you in touch with one of our law firms and you could buy through one of them. Or if you have trouble organizing your contracts, no matter what size you are, doesn't matter. We have very large clients, very small clients on this. Happy to organize your contracts and be your contract librarian. With that, Ernie, I'll open it up.
All right. Thank you so much. Incredibly powerful presentation, and you know, I'll be on my soapbox for you, getting this in front of CFOs and Treasury folks as well, just because we're all faced with more and more contracts, especially on the technology side of things. And so just a question or two around this that I'm getting. So how do you stay on top of all of the changes? You said there's a paradigm shift, right, in some areas of law. How does the AI and how does the system stay up and, up to date on with all the dynamics going on in law anywhere.
Well, it's an extremely big problem for us. It's
Okay,
one we can solve. In fact,
yeah,
we just got we get lauded by people who've never seen this from our clients and from prospects about the advice we give. And then we get something like we got 24 hours ago from a prospect that is genuinely interested in the tool and just crushed us on the fact that in some of our GDPR sifters had advice that was related to US Privacy Shield, which got invalidated at the end of last year and has kind of left us all in the lurch here on privacy, working with the EU and the UK. And the guy was like, you guys got to update this stuff. And so, I'll be honest, we're not perfect. We don't claim to be, but this is a major part of our investment in our business going forward. And the other thing we have going for us, truthfully, Ernie, is in a lot of the contracts we're focused on today, the law doesn't change very much. How to negotiate a goods agreement in the United States doesn't really move around very much. That's not to say it's not a problem. It is a problem. It's one we're tackling.
Great. Let me go ahead and launch our final polling question. I could ask Kevin questions for hours on it, but his time's too valuable for that. So let me ask you this question. For us in CFOs and Treasury, we're becoming more attuned to AI, so we don't get the negative look right from AI. We all kind of understand it. Just from the time you've been, touch us a little bit, just to put a fine point on it. What are some of the objections, right, that you're kind of hearing, and kind of, what are like the facts, right? So this is kind of getting out there. This isn't really true, right? What is it? Kind of know what I'm getting at. I'm asking that in a terrible manner, but some of the objections that people have, the common hesitations do they have, and what are the answers to those?
Well, truth, we'll start positive. We love it when we talk to CFOs. I mean, honestly, when we are outside of legal for just a hot minute, whether it be sales, COOs, or CFOs, that's where a lot of the contract pain is. And we tend to move faster and get a bigger and better implementation, just to be selfish about it. But honestly, the biggest constraint that people face here is, number one, on the after you sign side, actually it's on both. It's just, do they have any capacity to absorb this change? This is a change. We're asking you to change how you review and negotiate contracts, and we're asking you how you organize contracts. It's a change. And a lot of times what we face is now, but not now. It's, yes, but not now. I just don't have any capacity to even give you a point person internally because we're running so hard as a small and medium-sized business. The second pushback we receive is from lawyers. We have a lot of lawyers that say this is the greatest thing ever. I can't believe it. Thank you so much. And we have a lot of lawyers that say, you're going to take my job one day, go away. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to extend you. I'm going to make you better, blah, blah, blah. And it just falls on deaf ears. Or we get the lawyer who says, this can't be as good as me. So, I think the more success we have and other companies like us have, the more fear we will create. Yeah. But the truth is our number one competitor is do nothing and a lack of awareness. That's the truth.
Okay, thank you. So let's just wrap things up. I'd like to wrap things up. What is what's next, right, from your side? In addition to getting the word out, are there some things that are coming down the pipe to make the solution even more powerful that we might want to keep our eyes on?
Yes, so clients have expressed to us they want a scalable extraction tool that they can use on their laptops at any given point in time, because they might have 20 or 30. Sometimes clients will come to us for due diligence or other database cleanup projects, and they have 20,000 contracts and they need us to clean them up, and we'll do that for them. But a lot of times it's the everyday use case that they're saying, you know what, I got 25 contracts, I'm dropping them on my paralegal's desk, and I wish he or she could get that back to me in an hour or two, and they have no other tools except for Excel and Adobe. So we're going to actually republish our extraction tool beginning of April of next year. And it's going to be a very scalable tool, just like Legal Sifter Review. And the idea is if you have a small project where you've got 30 contracts that you need to know what's inside of them, you can drop them into the tool, and a human can use that tool and get that data out of there cheaper, faster, and better than they could ever do that on their own. The other thing that's coming is more and more advice. We are working with a network of advisors today and kind of advice givers. We expect to dramatically scale that over the next year or two, probably through the end of 2022, by a factor of 10, so that essentially we're giving you 25 experts on your desktop who know their subject matter that are coming through the tool on a regular basis. And that's when we really think the Legal Sifter Review tool will take off. Because while most of our clients today are in the what we call the professional edition, where you can configure the advice, most want to use it out of the box. That's it.
Right. Amazing. One more thing that kind of comes to my mind as a person that had to look at contracts was that you would never have access, right, to your expert, right? I mean, that would be
That's right.
maybe cost prohibitive, and so it's amazing. So instead, it's kind of like almost the SaaS model, right? Security, right? Do you want Joe, the IT guy, looking at your contract, or someone that does this all day, every day? Do you want your attorney, no offense, attorneys, do you want him looking at this, or do you want the leading expert who's writing whatever, the law book, right? The law. So amazing.
Yeah, it's not even a question. We know the answer to that question.
Right. So to wrap things up, Kevin, thank you so much for taking your time with us today. Amazing speaker, amazing content. I look forward to helping get the word out. I know it's gonna help change lives and change the profession. I'd love to say I help change the law profession because my brother-in-law is a lawyer. So thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. And I also want to thank Legal Sifter for being our partner today. So you were asking the last polling question if you want more information, want to reach out to Kevin, have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, really excited about this. I'll continue to keep you all out in front and offering more value across your organizations. And so with that, I want to wish everyone, make the rest of your day great, everyone.